So the first topic we're going to discuss is what is the correct time in the brand's evolution to start franchising? What should the brand be ready with? When's the right time? So I'll start with Shikha, who said she had some thoughts on this.
I think it's a very good question that you've put forward. When are we ready to franchise? I think we have to be ready to franchise so that we ensure that the franchisee is successful. It's not about just franchising the brand to build our brand, but it's about building the brand with the success of the franchisee. To do this, I'll share my personal experience about how we started franchising Copper Chimney. We built it in 1972 and we franchised it somewhere in 1994 as our first franchise in Chennai, which is still a very successful restaurant. Even at that time, what we did was we didn't change the essence of the concept of the brand, but we developed an entire set of standards and procedures that could be replicated. Processes that are developed by any brand is what is taken into the franchise system, and the franchisee can then have a successful format. It's virtually, it's a proven success. So it's not that just the brand was popular and we started franchising it, no. The time to franchise it when you have the exact set system, the standards and the procedures. I think that's the key, what I would look at, and the people who can then train the people. Once you've done this, then your next step comes in is how do you do it? You have the standard and systems, and how do you share it with the franchisee so that he can replicate it and he can carry it forward. So that's the training process. So there are two things. I think when you're ready to, you have your systems in place and you can train the people to do it.
Great, thanks. Yeah. Jason, would you like to add to that, Brian, how you decided what aspects?
Sure. The thing that's vitally important, as mentioned earlier, is you have to have a system in place. You have to have all the processes, the manuals, the procedures, the recipes, to be able to operate your business properly. And I think what else is a broader sense is, we took a lot of years to make sure that our system worked in multiple formats, but we also made sure that we could actually replicate it at a small scale, and now we're able to offer it at a much larger scale here in India. But I think we go back to it's important about this step process as you find locations. The real estate's very important. You can have the best concept in the world, but if you're in the wrong place with the wrong customers, it doesn't work. So that's where we can provide some help with a master franchise or a franchisee area developer, and I think what we bring to the table now, which I think is very important, is the ability to train and develop the staff. We've over time hired thousands of people from this country that have worked in our cafes over the last 15 to 18 years, and we have some of those resources to pull from. But it still goes back to, when are you ready? You're ready when you have a system that you can easily replicate and all the training pieces in place so that you can explain in depth from the very beginning of the process to the end how you're going to find a location, how you're going to find the staff, train the staff, and then operate an efficient location that is going to make customers come back every time. So that's important.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. Karan, you were talking earlier and you said, you had some thoughts to share on the topic.
Yeah, being less experienced than the entire panel, I would just like to take a step behind and share my experience. I think first of all, it is very important to have SWOT right for your brand. What are your strengths? So you need to undergo the entire incubation cycle. Your brand might be successful in one area because that product is successful in that particular area and people like it. But how will it be accepted in the other areas? Is your product right for franchising? So I think first, acceptability of product for the franchisee model and identifying that one of your strengths for franchising is your product is very, very key. After that, making it extremely easy for the franchisee to execute the operations because he's not from this industry, which means starting from your back-end logistics to recruitment, to retaining the staff, to training them, to sourcing out ingredients, to making simple SOPs, also guiding them that giving a checklist, what all you need to do in the morning, what you need to do in the night, how you can simply come, take a round for a couple of hours, and what are the key points you can touch base in an outlet to identify if there is any loophole or any improvement in the operation. So once you have undergone the entire incubation cycle, wherein you have failed, you have grown, you have given offers, you have increased your business, you have undergone a retention cycle, iteration cycle, I think that's very, very basic to start thinking of franchisee before going into franchising.
Sure. Sam, you advised, talked one part of businesses, some of these kind of legacy brands on, when and how to franchise. So in addition to what's been kind of already put out by some of the panelists, some any additional thoughts on?
Sure. Essentially, I believe franchising is of two kinds. One is franchising by the brand, and the second is franchising by the master franchisee or the franchisor, as the case may be. So when it comes to the brand already has the passion, he's got the perfection, and his ultimate idea is to build an organization or clone, if I may say, whatever he's made and replicate it across. And he obviously wants a zero defect before he starts. The ideal thing is to start when it's zero defect. But the problem is that many times the brand itself or himself may not have the ability to understand how to replicate it. And that's where he obviously hires somebody like yourselves or us or works in it. But when it comes to the master franchisee, I think the key differentiation is the master franchisee is there for probably not the long haul, at least initially. He's got profitability in mind rather than the passion. And that is where the discrimination is. So the brand must ensure that the master franchisee should not be allowed, if I may use the right word, should not be allowed to sub-franchise until and unless he has overcome both the passion and the profitability. When he sees that he's got the eye of the tiger in him, he's understood the systems, there is zero defect, as the minister said, zero effect, zero defect. Once you've reached that level, that's the time he should allow him to start franchising.
Okay. Uday, you mentioned that you recently started. So what was the inflection point, or what made you feel that your brand was now ready to franchise?
Right. Sorry. Yeah. So in our case, the way we actually looked at it, that I think much has been said, but I think each format is different. So I mean, there are certain models I believe which are franchisable, some are even not franchisable. So in our case, I think it's a fairly simple model, and we made it simple, and we took 2 years, like I said, to sort of perfect the business model, to get our systems in place, which is absolutely a given. Then, I think we also decided to set up an organization before you actually get into franchising, in terms of getting your people in, getting your support systems in, getting your training in place. So I think that's what we built up over the last about a year or so, and then now we believe that now it's a good time and we're ready to do. And just one more thing, and also, I think we're in a little different situation from some of the other panel members here, in terms of we're in a new category of cafes, so to say. It's like a new category being created. So it's also a matter of sort of understanding the potential in each of the markets, and therefore getting into those markets. So what our strategy is that we will also do our own company-owned outlets in each of those locations, and then sort of franchise out.
Sure. Okay, thanks. I think great insights, some very interesting thoughts on the topic. Now to move on to the kind of next topic, we said, so some of this has already been covered, but what elements are critical in a franchising system that you create as a brand, which ensures success, both for the franchisor and franchisee, and to ensure that relationship is then mutually beneficial and synergistic? I'll start with Brian, couple of thoughts on that topic.
So the key to running a business and operating a business is the very beginning. So if you start at the beginning, you have the right location, and then the staff, the management have to be bought in 100%. They have to be committed, and we have to train, retrain, coach, recoach. It's a never-ending cycle. as long as your staff are highly trained and can execute the concept properly, you're going to produce a very good product. As long as they're trained properly, how customer service and engaging the customer is so important, and how you only get a chance so often for that first impression. It's once. And so you have to make sure that when you do that, it's amazing. And when they come back, it's amazing. And when they come back, it's amazing. If you can't produce the best beverage for them every time, or the best food item every time, you're going to fail, because eventually they're going to not come back. And eventually it could be the first time. They don't come back the second time. So it's a lot of effort and time to really get that first customer. So people have to be trained effectively and over again. And all this relies on all the manuals and documentation and recipes you put in place. But it's really about this one-on-one experience with them to make sure they're trained properly. So.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, Jason.
Just a quick point. I would just like to take one step further back from that. And as a young entrepreneur or someone who wants to get into business for themselves, I would encourage you not to rush into getting into a franchise with someone based on an emotional experience. The biggest mistake you make is getting excited about something and say, oh, I really want to do this. I could see myself doing this. But in reality, the franchisor-franchisee relationship is very much like a marriage. That you want to make sure that it works out, then you make sure that it's going to be for the duration, because breaking it up is going to be very expensive at the end if you decide that it doesn't work out for you. So what Brian was talking about was, once you get past the marriage and now you're ready to get this thing going, what do you have to do? My suggestion to you is, before that, please do your homework, do your research, do your due diligence, and make sure that the people that you're going to get into business with are truly the right match for you. That when you give them your money, you know that this is going to be a good journey.